Tell me about your life.
Oh my God, you want to hear about my life? That's a long story, Mr. Roof. Anyway,
So where are you from?
I'm from Jamaica. I was born in a little district known as Tranquility. That's in the northeastern end of the part of the island, and it's in the parish of Portland. I spent, I grew up there with a mother, father, and four sisters. I spent the first 18 years there. I went to school. I went to an all-age school, which is probably equal to about uh, elementary and junior high. And then we left when I was going to school. We left at 15. So if you didn't pass to go to a high school at like 9 or 10, when you're 15, you would have left school. So I left at 15. But before I left, we had some local exams known as Jamaica Local Examinations. And there are three of them. You could take first, second, and third. If you pass the third year, then you could go into college or you could get into agriculture. I get as far as 15. I passed the first Jamaica local exam, and that was age 15. So I had to leave school. After that, I went on to do some what they call Jamaica School Certificate examinations. These exams you can get as many subjects as you want. If you wanted to go into like teaching, for example, you had to have a minimum of 5 subjects that included maths, English, science subjects, and 2 other subjects. The other 2 that I had were history and scripture. And so by the time I was 16, 17, I was still going to school in the evenings, going to work in the days. And when I was 21, I finally got enough subjects I wanted to go to college. In the midst of all that, I was always been involved in churches. My parents kind of brought me to church. They took me into church. I grew up involvement in church activities. When I was about 15, I was president for what was known as the Church of God, Tranquility Church of God, the youth fellowship. I was involved in sports in the community. I was when I left school at 15, I was captain for the team. Before that, I was involved in a 4-H club, doing a lot of stuff, rearing animals, rabbits, chicken, goats, doing some craft work as well. We went to the parish finals in some of these areas. Normally, the school goes on a lot of activities. I remember when I was 12, we had a first stadium open in Jamaica, the only one we have. And I was supposed to go on that school trip. I didn't go. My father was supposed to buy me some shoes. He never did buy it, so I didn't get to go to the stadium, the opening. Incidentally, that was the same year, in 1962, we became independent from the British. So, that kind of was one of the great events, but hey, part of life. I lived with my mother and father when they were 12. When I was 12, somewhere between 11 and 12, my father and mother separated. I chose to stay with my father. I stayed with him. He became ill. Part of the time he had a stoppage of water, and I had to be up with him all these nights during his pain, helping him. In between all of that, I had to go to work. I remember some very interesting incidents. I remember one time I was supposed to go to work. I had to walk to this place. It was 4 miles away. And when I got there, what happened is that we didn't have any electricity. So I had to get up on time. The roosters would crow at a certain time. And you'd get up and walk this 4 miles. It so happened that this rooster probably crowed about 2 o'clock in the morning. I never forget it because I got up in the morning, got ready, walked, and part of the way I was supposed to pass, there were some rocks that we had to pass around. And just before I got to the point where we had to pass these rocks, there was a banana tree, some banana trees, and because it was early in the morning, the dew on the banana leaf was kind of making it look like somebody was kind of there. You know, in the country area, you kind of think about duppies, and it's like, is that a ghost? I stayed there about 5-10 minutes looking at this tree, looking at this thing barely moving in the wind, and finally decided I had to pass it because I had to go to work. When I passed, walk on the rocks, nobody was there on the road, I was alone. I got to Buff Bay, and only to find out when I got there it was about 5 o'clock
in the morning.
in the morning. So I sat out on it was near to the beach, near to the seaside, so I sat there beside it on one of these walls that was nearby, the splashing walls. I even fell asleep. In fact, I was supposed to get to this workplace at 7 o'clock. When daylight, about 5 o'clock, 5, 6, I realized, man, it was too early to leave. Anyway, I was there. I walked to Buff Bay to get a job. Fortunately for me, I got a job. I was probably 15, 16 thereabout, and I had to, what I was doing was being a checker on a truck. We usually have like trucks taking stuff, dump truck taking stuff for the public works department. And so I was the person who was driving with the driver and taking a note of all the stuff we took up. So we would take down, for example, if we took up a load of sand, which was probably about 30, 50 cubic foot, whatever, I don't even know the measurement. I had to make a note of it. And then at the end of the day, I would turn in my books. We probably sometimes, depending on where we had to go, we made several trips to different places. Anyway, we started at 8 in the morning, we got off at 4. And at 4 o'clock in the evening, I had 2 options. At that time of the day, the only other bus that was left to go to my home would be getting there about 6.
So you had to wait.
I had 2 choices: wait until 6 or walk it home. And of course, the second option is what I did. It's 4 miles, it's not far, you know.
Yeah.
I walk it. Some other things in my life. When my sisters, my father and mother separated, my mother went to live with her mother, and my 2 sisters were living with me. Of course, I have a brother, which was living in Belize at the time, because my mother has 3 other children, so she has really 6 of us. 3 by my father and mother, by both parents, and 3 other children. So my brother was living in Belize. Honduras. Yeah. And he had lived there with his father. My other sister by this time was either somewhere in Jamaica or she had gone to England. Yeah, England was one of the places where British people would go. I had a lot of uncles and they took her up, and so she went up. So I kind of grew up with my father, kind of on my own sometimes. He was a cement mason. He built walls, gutters. You know, Portland is a very mountainous place. So sometimes, especially in the rainy season, there's a lot of landslide. And so in order to prevent this landslide, they'd make walls. And so my father built those walls, or the gutters. You know, they'd make them out of stones. And he would go to work. Sometimes he would leave me like alone. Yeah. Left me on Monday morning. I saw him Friday night. In the meantime, I would go to school, come home. I would go to some friend's home. There was one of the ladies in the church